This is John Cameron with Gray Area, where our mission is to connect the house music community across the globe. And today I'm joined by Iglesias. How are you doing tonight, Iglesias?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
Amazing. So the past month alone, you visited Ibiza, Madrid, Australia, and Italy. And in another month, you're going to add Amsterdam, Buenos Aires, Medellin, and San Jose to that list. Are you loving it? Is your head spinning? Some of both?
No, I'm really enjoying it. This is the first time where my life's been this hectic. I'll put it that way. But I am really enjoying it. It is good fun. It's a juggle of how to manage stuff that's going on in the studio to being in different time zones every weekend. But no, I'm absolutely loving it.
Absolutely. So hectic, but hectic in a good way.
It is in a good way. Yeah, I'm just not used to it at the moment. I'm not used to it, but it's good fun. It's good fun.
I see. Okay. And let's talk about releases. So not too long ago, you just released the Dance to My Drums EP on Mindshake. How's it feel getting a sign off by Paco Osuna, since that's his label?
I mean, yeah, it's pretty. I've looked up to Paco for a very, very long time. So to have music on his label is pretty special. To have remixed him this year is pretty special. I've got more music coming out with him this year. So it's a bit of a dream to be part of the Mindshake team.
That's great. And how's the EP been released so far? Or excuse me, been received so far by fans?
Yeah, it's done really well. It's been played by pretty much everyone who I would want to play it. But also it's the fact that it's played and not necessarily in clubs or whatever. I just get, I get tagged in stories on stuff of people listening to their kitchen and, their grandparents dancing to it and stuff like that. I love probably that more than seeing like crazy big festival videos or anything like that. And I get more of an enjoyment of just the everyday person listening to it in their car. So
absolutely, their grandparents.
Yeah.
That's really universal appeal right there.
I've had some funny videos, yeah.
That's amazing. And I've read that you got into electronic music through working with computers and that kind of thing. But I want to go a little bit further back than that even. Tell me about what kind of kid you were, maybe how you got into technology, if that was your point of entry into electronic music, stuff like that.
So the way I got into it was a bit of a weird one because, like most people, when they have a really cool story on their dad's got like a crazy, record collection, or they're introduced by their dad's dad and all this other stuff, I wasn't really into it when I was a kid. I mean, I remember the first time I got an iPod. That was when like I massively started to fall into music as a whole. But actually, for me, from the beginning, it's always been punk. It's always been rock. Blink-182 just released loads of tickets today. That's like my jam. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Okay.
So that's also where, when people listen to my music now, hopefully you'll be able to transition and listen to where my influences actually came from, because my influences, yes, it wasn't necessarily, the disco and all the other stuff that maybe I was introduced by my parents, but actually it's the rock stuff. And that's why you'll listen to a lot of my drums and a lot of in my track. I've got loads of tracks called like Rudiment, which is obviously rudiments in a, for drummers. You've got Dance to My Drums. You've got everything for me is always about drums. And that's because of people like Travis Barker. And it's actually the rock side of it, which influenced the way of what my music is today. So from growing up, it's always actually been about punk. And then it moved into electronic, weirdly.
I see. And that's not that uncommon. I just spoke with Miss Dre out of San Francisco yesterday, and she said the exact same thing. So that's not
really cool.
Yeah, it's not super uncommon. A lot of people make.
No, yeah, I think it's because every time I read an interview, it's like, I inherited this crazy big record collection. I was obsessed, and it's like, I'm not like that,
Well, maybe you're just one of a kind,
maybe, maybe.
So in your bio, I've read that you're from Galicia, Spain originally, but then in another article said that you were born in the UK. I was wondering if you could clarify that for me.
So my dad is Spanish.
Okay.
So he's from Murcia in Spain. And then my mum is from the UK. So I am half and half. I speak no Spanish whatsoever, which
I
is
see.
pretty embarrassing.
Okay.
Like none. And I'm booked in Spain loads, and everyone would assume that Iglesias, I mean, you should. Iglesias Fernandez is actually my last name. It's the most Spanish name, but yeah, I only speak English. Barely.
I see. Okay, thanks for clearing that up. And I mean, if you do spend a lot of time in Spain, you know, a perspective I've heard is that Spain's sort of position in the electronic music landscape right now is kind of similar to where Berlin's was 20 years ago in terms of, you know, in terms of it being sort of that type of mecca. Do you feel like that's kind of an accurate impression?
Yeah, without sounding like biased or anything like that, I really love playing in Spain because of the culture and how, you know, how people respond to music over there is actually a little bit different to, you know, the UK, for example, at the moment. But that's just how, I don't know if that's me being biased or anything because I am Spanish, but yeah, I enjoy playing there. I absolutely love going over there. It's a different feeling. Everyone's so happy, you know.
I see. So
more
when you
focus on music, less on drugs.
that makes sense. They kind of have, just as a society, they have more of a focus on the arts, you know,
yes,
in general. But you would say that you said that they respond to music differently, like more happy. That's generally kind of what you get there.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a hard one to say. Depends where you. It really does depend on the club and where you play and who's
Of
there.
course.
And you can't stereotype it. But like, you know, 7 a.m. in the morning, they still want to keep going. But it's not like a druggy keep going. It's no, we literally love the music. Keep going until we need to go to sleep type thing.
That's so interesting. So you feel like noticeably there's, I mean, obviously Ibiza is a different story, obviously, but
yeah, of course, yeah.
You feel like mainland Spain, it's not as much about drug culture and things like that as maybe.
I really do believe so. Yeah, I mean, from someone who I don't take drugs anymore. That's a very long time ago that I kind of stopped doing all that. So I'm like really, because I'm not sober when I'm playing, but when I'm so much more aware of what's going on. So when I go to different clubs and stuff, I can kind of see, and yeah, without stereotyping too much.
Absolutely.
That's definitely what I've noticed, and I just love playing there because they just respond so well.
Yeah. Do you mind if I ask what led you to cutting out drugs?
Yeah, I've got ADHD. So I've got a really, really addictive personality, basically. So everything that I do, it's like 1,000,000,000%.
I'm right there with you. I totally understand that. I can totally relate to that.
So yeah, I just had to stop. I mean, I only just recently quit vaping. So I've been smoking since I was.
Congratulations.
So yeah, I mean, like it's one of those things where if I do something like how I am with music, it's all or nothing, basically. So yeah, drugs was all or nothing.
I can understand that. And how long has it been? It's
been, the last time I took anything is 9 years, I want to say.
Oh wow.
So yeah.
Well, congratulations, especially in this industry. You know, that's a hard thing to stick to. So
it's definitely, yeah, it's tough, but yeah, I'm happy. Clear of mind.
Would you say that you were a lot of people, they don't start both DJing and producing at the same time. One kind of leads to another. Would you say that you were a producer first?
I was definitely a DJ first.
You were a DJ first. Okay.
I was a DJ first, and I used to run some parties in the UK and the South. And it got to a point when I was booking a lot of these people, Waff, Steve Lawler, you know, the people that I used to look up to. And I was like, you know, why am I paying these people so much money? What are they different to me? We both DJ. What's like the difference here? And the key difference was they made great music and I didn't make anything at all. So that's what led me into making music. And then it sort of became, I was obsessed with producing rather than DJing.
Interesting. So it kind of fully switched over.
Yeah, definitely. Like I became completely obsessed with it. Like I would have rather made music on the weekend than DJ'd in the club.
I mean, that's what I would have expected based on the fact that you run a studio and stuff like that. Yeah. You know, like I would have figured you were just a producer's producer and then you sort of learned to DJ just out of necessity. But that's really interesting that it completely switched over that way.
No, yeah, I think
it's common.
No, yeah, most people, yeah, it's mostly the other way around. But it was more because it came to a point of I want to be that headliner. That's how I thought as like a DJ. I want to be that guy. And then it actually came to a point of like, I'm making music that these guys are playing, but I don't really care that I'm not in their position, if that makes sense.
I see. Yeah.
I didn't really give a shit.
So when did you start DJing? And then from there, when was your debut recorded and
I mean,
released?
I was playing when I was like 18 years old.
Okay.
But I played in some cool places still without DJing, playing like Ministry of Sound and stuff in the UK. But it got to a point where you hit that wall, and
Yeah.
especially with like money, you know, you're making like 150 quid a night. You're trying to get there. You're in the middle of nowhere. You need to get a train home or a taxi home. You spent all your money on drugs and alcohol and shit, and you're like, mate, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, so yeah.
I see. And then since you started releasing music, what would you say some of like your biggest milestone tracks have been? Obviously, there's quite a lot since then.
I would say there's two that really kicked it for me. For two different reasons as well. I'd say the first one was I did a remix for Clooney. It was, the track was called Real Thing. We were both like basically nobodies then. And I got sent this track and he was like, do you want a remix? And I was like, yeah, why not? Blah, blah, blah. And I remember I did this remix in like 2 hours, and I didn't really like playing my own music. And I did this remix, mixed it fully, mastered it, sent it back, and they approved it, and that was it. And then I started seeing videos of Corolla playing it, and I was like,
oh, wow.
Do you know what? I should probably play this song as well. I'd never even played it before. So that was like a pinnacle moment in that. Just believe in your own music. If you're making it, play it as well. You know, don't be embarrassed to play it. And then I think the second time was probably Subdue, because and I've kind of talked about this before, it was just the way it happened. Again, another way of like believing in yourself. I remember sending the demos to Solado Boys for literally months, and getting like, they were just completely ignoring me the whole time. Went to a festival, long story short, went up to James and I was like, dude, you just listen to this fucking song, you know, I know you're gonna like it. And he got his laptop and just signed it on the spot. And it made me, that was another sort of moment for me of like, just keep pushing, you know? It doesn't matter what people say, if people think your music's shit or whatever, just keep pushing and someone's gonna open up the door for you.
So it sounds like big turning points for you have been just things that reinforce like your self-confidence in your music.
Yes, exactly that. And I think that when I was, I was doing kind of different stuff in terms of not what I was making, it was still tech house and whatever, but it was the choices of sounds and stuff that I was using that others weren't necessarily using, which kind of made me doubt what I was making at the time. But it's only pushed on further and further. This type of, sounds that I use now, it's all raw, authentic drums and authentic bass sounds, so that it's all came from those two moments, So
interesting. So you said it's like kind of like 808 sounds, and then other like maybe like organic kind of sounds and stuff.
Oh, it's like I'm like literally, as in I'll sample like an actual kick drum from a drum kit and be like, this sounds crap, let's make this sound good somehow.
I see.
It's stuff like that,
Yeah, and that always adds kind of a personal touch. It adds a warmth. I figure that's probably something you impart on people, because I understand you mentor producers too and everything. Is that like
I do, yeah.
Is that a big thing that you kind of like impart on them?
I just say to them, just go with what you're doing. I mean, people are trying to copy other people. That's not, I just don't feel like you'll get anywhere. So I always try to say to people, who are you influenced by? What type of music you influenced by? And it doesn't necessarily have to be like house and electronic, like how I am with Good Charlotte, for instance. I like the drummer, I like the snares from there. So put that in your own song. That's what I try to teach people. Obviously give them techniques, but just don't give a shit what everyone else is doing, because if some people are already doing it, it's done. It's already been done.
I see. I think that's good advice. And we've been talking about your studio, Woodlands Studio. How long ago was it that you launched Woodlands?
2018, I think.
2008
or 2019. I can't remember. Yeah, somewhere around that time.
Okay.
Because it was actually when I was living at home with my parents, and I was working out of my studio, as in studio in my bedroom.
Yeah.
It was pissing them off a lot. They were like, right, let's do something together. So we both went halves on a studio, basically, a studio space. And we got their garage. They have a separate garage. We took the roof off, went one story up. We went halves on it. And it's basically on their property. So now when I go to the studio, I'm actually commuting back to my, childhood home.
Interesting. That's
Yeah.
super interesting.
So I actually live like 15 minutes away from here, but it's super easy.
Okay. And in another interview, you said that business picked up a lot for Woodlands during the pandemic. Obviously, you had gigging on hold and things like that. Do you think you would have had to find other work if you didn't have this venture?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Like, literally without a doubt. I remember I was kind of living on what was left before the before the pandemic. And I mean, I was still fortunate. I was living at my mum's house back then. So I didn't have like crazy overheads and stuff. So it wasn't the worst thing in the world, but I remember thinking I'm going to need some sort of income. And it was actually me and Latmun who kind of started that whole thing when I just said to him, let's do what it was. Like I got masterclass.com. You ever seen that? Where like Dead Mouse has done some things.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen ads for that. Yeah.
Yeah, they did it. They basically sent me an email saying like 2-for-1 offer. And I was like, oh, sweet. And I actually bought it. I bought it for me and my girlfriend, I think. And I literally watched like one video and I was like, I can do this. We can do this. Why is no one else doing this?
Yeah.
So yeah, me and Latman did it. We got 100 tickets. We put it out, sold it out in like 30 hours or something stupid. We had no idea how we were going to do it. We'd had all this money. We had no idea what we were going to do. But yeah, it went well. And then I just did them like every 3 weeks, every month or whatever for like the whole of pandemic. But the thing was that a lot of people around the UK, a lot of DJs, sorry, because no one was working.
Yeah.
It was really easy for me to be like, WAF, do you want to come do a class? You're not doing anything. So that was why, that's kind of why it worked. And it meant that, these DJs obviously could get paid during the pandemic, but also it was actually quite an amazing thing to be able to give back to so many people. And it was all over the world. There was different people from all over the world. And we did discounts for, if you're in Venezuela and like the pound was completely different or whatever, we made sure that it didn't matter who you were kind of thing, you'd be able to get on the class. So it was a really cool time. And, we've slowed down now really from doing them. But yeah, it was good fun.
That's really cool. So would you say that, a lot of artists should maybe pick up some side branch other than just DJing and producing, like to weather a storm, like if something else like the pandemic came along, or even just something that's more personal to them?
I mean, yeah, probably 100%. I mean, like the thing is, a lot of people that I know, if you're like a plumber or an electrician, or like you've got like another trade, you can do something. If this all goes tits up, you can do something. I have a degree as well. I have a 2-2, so it's like can't really do anything with it. But I'd be screwed if it wasn't something to do with music and DJing stopped, music production stopped. I'd be screwed. So I needed to find something else. But now it's mixing and mastering and teaching other people. So yeah, I definitely always say to people, have a backup. Don't obviously throw everything at it, but if we have another pandemic or something, at least I have something to fall back on.
Absolutely.
But it's easier said than done to just start something.
Of course. Yeah, of course. And last year you expanded it to include a label, Woodlands Records. Is there a Woodlands Records sound, or is there kind of a guiding philosophy?
Not really, no. And the people, it's really funny because I get sent a lot of music that sounds like me. I'm like, it's actually,
that's not what you want?
Nah, that's not what I want. That's literally not what I want. I mean, if I have something that doesn't sound like me in the style that I would play, like something rolling and, nice big drums and stuff, cool. But we've signed like breakbeat.
Okay.
I've signed some other like melodic-y sort of stuff that's going to be coming out. So it's not really about that. It's more catch me on the right day kind of thing. Because I mean, I've signed some stuff that I actually, honestly, is actually probably not what I would play out.
Yeah.
But I know that I really enjoy listening to it. And it's like a great piece of production, or the mix is amazing on it. And I know it's going to resonate with maybe a different type of person. I'll still sign it for that sort of reason. So it's not just kind of a convert. Some people only sign stuff that they're going to play. I'm not really like that. I just really need to enjoy it and resonate with with what that producer's doing, essentially.
I see. I think that's respectable, honestly, especially because most kind of artist imprints, which it doesn't sound like Woodland Records is that, but most of them are exactly that. It's just kind of like stuff that an artist would play out in their sets and things like that.
Yeah, it's just like an expansion on them themselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've never really wanted it to be like that. I wanted it to be like just a platform, you know, put some music out. I don't really care about making money on that or whatever. If we lose money, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
You know, just put out some cool music. And actually, to be honest, some of the stuff that we have put out, I love the fact that in like 3 or 4 years time, people are going to go on my, you know, Beatport over, oh, Woodlands record, what's this? And then be like, oh, this is a fucking amazing song. How did I not see this? And it's some random art. I love that. I literally love that.
Well, tell me about the music that's been released on there so far. Like, give some shout out to some of these artists.
I'd say the biggest one that I was most excited about was a guy called Niccolo Bonelli, and it was a breakbeat track. And I remember Marco Carola did a space live stream during the pandemic, and it was the last song he played. And I was literally obsessed with this song for so long. Had no idea who it was. People were commenting, who is this, blah, blah, blah. I eventually found this kid, this guy from Italy, makes really, really cool music. And it was just the whole me trying to find this track for such a long time, getting it, releasing it. And it did really, really well as well. We did some remix packages with Ben Chill. We did a competition as well through Woodlands, a guy called Mr. Peacock who won it. It was through a masterclass. We did a remix package with him. So yeah, it was like, that was just a really cool release, I think. But now we've got a VA coming out. It's got a bunch of tracks on there. Really completely different vibe. Every single track is completely different, essentially. So yeah, just it's good fun. I really enjoy it. And I run it with one of my friends called Danny. And we did the master classes together in the pandemic as well. So it's very family vibe.
Okay, cool. And you mentioned that you did those with Latmun as well. And you also collaborated with them on a 2-track EP, Just Like and Sides. Yeah. Tell me about how that came together.
Oh God, when we sit down and make music together, we never really know what's going to happen. We're very much, we fight for the seat. We're both absolutely obsessed with production. So we fight for the seat so much. So sometimes you'll listen to a track and like halfway through it, it's like a completely different vibe, which is exactly what Sides happened. You know, the final drop I kind of did, the first one he did. So as you listen, it like turns into something else. But yeah, every time we sort of meet with each other, it's never like, we don't just go hang at the pub or anything like that or go to a bar. It's always, what are you up to this week? Let's get in the studio for 5 days and see what happens, kind of thing. But yeah, we've got a few more things together as well. We've got another thing which is going to be happening on Paco Osuna's label. It's called Duff Man. And we've been sitting on this track for like a year. So
Duff Man, like from The Simpsons?
I've literally exactly that. it's
I love
a
that
sample
reference.
from Yellow. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's literally what the Duff Man says. So yeah, that's why we call it Duff Man.
I see.
So yeah, that's going to be coming out hopefully by the end of the year. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I love making music with him because we kind of get it. We just get each other's how our minds kind of work, and I guess that's why our back-to-back sets work as well.
You said that you have like an obsession with percussion. Do you think it's possible for a track to sound good and be a strong track without like a really strong, like really kind of attention-grabbing percussive line?
For some people, I'm sure, definitely. You know, but for me, yeah, I always find when someone sends me a track, you know, even if it's for sending to my label, I'm always giving a lot of input as well. Some people like it, some people don't. I'll be like, you know, you should add this and this and this. But for me, yeah, it's all about the groove. You know, when you listen to it, it has to have a good groove in there. And a lot of that stems from what does the percussion do? You know, it doesn't have to be over the top crazy. It just has to have really cool call and responses happening throughout for, you know, a nice progression or whatever. But, you know, you don't ever listen to a band with just a bass guitarist and a lead singer.
Right.
You have to have some drums in there that holds it all together. So for me, percussion is what holds, you know, a track together.
I see. And there's kind of an interesting trend going on right now in the electronic music world. And it's kind of like carrying over into pop music and stuff, where house has been on this upward trajectory for like kind of a long time. Like at first it was just a Fisher track getting, you know, hitting #1 on the Billboard Dance Club Songs chart, but now it's like people like Drake and Beyonce dabbling in house and it making, you know, sort of well-intentioned but kind of you know, the headlines that are coming out of that. What do you think about this? Are you for this? Are you against this? Somewhere in the middle?
I don't really care, to be fair. I mean, like, what they're doing is not what we're doing. Let's put it that way. They're making some like commercial stuff. So who they're appealing to, I don't even think that person would even know that that's a house beat or whatever. They would just be like, oh, it's another Drake track that's just come out. Like, do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it never really fusses me that much because I don't feel like they're stepping on our toes. What we're doing is way cooler than what they're doing. So yeah, it's kind of my thoughts on that.
So you feel like it doesn't really have any bearing?
It doesn't really bother me. No, I mean,
Yeah.
no, it doesn't really bother. I mean, there's a lot of people in what we're doing who are using samples from what they're doing as well. That bothers me, kind of.
Sure.
But, I won't go into that.
Absolutely, yeah, understandable.
But yeah.
Okay. And is there anything else about you that you think maybe fans of your music would be surprised if they knew about you, that you haven't seen anybody really write about you online anywhere?
I mean, when I do interviews and stuff, I'm pretty open. I'm pretty quiet on social media.
Yeah.
And that's how most people get to know an artist. But I'm more open when I do interviews. So I'm pretty sure if anyone ever had sort of a question about me, there's an interview somewhere that will answer that question. But yeah, If they ever have a question, just message me on Instagram.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for talking with us today.
No worries.
Thank you to everybody who watched this, and we'll see you next time.